In this episode, I want to talk to you about not being a slave to a label and stop playing their game. Let's go. I spent the last 14 years playing over 1,000 shows, touring 22 different countries, and become a top 40 Billboard charting artist. I fired my record label to go out on my own as an independent artist to market and release my own music, selling thousands of albums and millions of streams. The question I always get is, how did I do it without a label and sell even more music? This podcast is here to show you the way. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share marketing strategies to grow my music business and a loyal fan base. So guys, I'm really excited to share this episode of the podcast. I just flew back into Orange County, California, where I used to live, where my daughter was born, and I just played 2 amazing shows. Just got back from a festival, and it was so fun. And I was hanging out in the green room like I normally do, and I always meet in different bands and stuff like that. And I met one of the headliner bands, and I'm going to leave their name anonymous, just to be respectful. And this is the thing, okay? The reason I started teaching smart music business, and the reason I started just teaching and sharing anything that I've learned over the last 20 years in the music industry, is because I realized I would talk to bands during the shows, after the shows, right before the show, and I would get really bummed out and hear that they're struggling and that they don't know how to monetize their music, and they're even signed to really big labels, and they look like they're, technically bigger than me, but they're not making any money off their music. And here again, it was another classic example of a band that I talked to, and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? We're just chatting, and there's 3 guys hanging out there, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm so stoked, man. One of your songs has got almost over 10 million streams on Spotify, because I was thinking to myself, one of mine is almost hitting 10 million, one of my songs, and they had one that did already. And the first thing he says is like, oh, yeah, well, the label's getting all that money. And like, that's the first thing he said when I'm like trying to compliment him. And I was like, oh, man, seriously? I'm like, well, you got to be getting something with like, Sound Exchange or like publishing in the background. And it was like crickets. There wasn't really any response. And I was like, dang, man. I'm like, well, man, I got all my records back from the label because, I signed a licensing deal, so they only had rights to my album for a little while. And so, I'm getting paid for all my records now, man. But I said, but you know what though, dude? I said, I know you guys get played on radio. I said, look, radio hasn't even touched me since, I went independent, or at least some stations haven't. I said, I had some success at Active Rock, and we hit the billboards and all that, and it was awesome. But man, it's been really tough, but I'm getting paid every month. And, and he says, well, man, sometimes, you just got to play the game. And I was thinking to myself, man, I don't want to play that game anymore, because it's rigged, it's not fair, and it causes artists just to leave their families and on the road and be forced to tour. And honestly, I see it, because I've done this. I've played hundreds and hundreds of shows, like over 1,000 shows, and I know what it's like just be hanging out in that green room, just waiting all day to just get on stage. And yes, getting on stage is freaking amazing, rocking the show, sweating your face off, hanging out with fans, having people come up to you and say, man, that song changed my life. That is amazing. But there is a cost in this, guys, and that's not being with your family. And I can see it on these guys' faces sometimes that don't, haven't seen their kids or whatnot, and they got to be away. Not because they want to be, or at least not as much as they want to be. They want to be out there, but probably not as much because they miss their families and stuff like that. And all I'm trying to say is, because I am not against touring. I love touring. I freaking love doing shows, but like, there's not beating yourself up on the road because you have to. Like, you should be able to tour, but then come home and still make money off your music. But it's really hard to, unless you're a massive, freaking huge success and you're getting so much royalties that the label actually does pay you. But when you sign with the label, man, you're literally giving up 80% of your income, 75 to 80% of your income. And like, that is crazy. Like, how are you supposed to survive off that? So if you're making 100, you're only making $20, and with music, sometimes the margins are tough sometimes. And when you sign with the label, the other thing they don't tell you is that, CDs, when you're independent, that used to cost you 50 cents to $1.50 to press. Now, once you're signed, you got to buy them off the label for like $4 or $5, okay? And then try and sell those for 10 at the show. So the margins, again, just get eaten away. And it just bummed me out when he's like, yeah, he's got to play the game. And I was just like, man, I don't want to play that game because it's rigged, it's not fair, and it's in favor of the label. When I go to eat out for dinner, and the waitress comes up to me and she gives me an itemized bill. And I remember a waiter the other day just saying, hey, does everything look okay on there? And because it's itemized based on what I bought, because they're only going to charge me for what I bought. So I only want to pay for what I bought and I use. Well, when you sign to a record label, you do not get a very clear bill explaining what the expenses are and what the label is, spending your money, okay? Whether that's radio marketing or dinners or, other write-offs that you do not get a clear bill, let alone you only get it's a royalty statement is what it's called. And, you get one quarterly for publishing, and then you get one bi-yearly, twice annually, I guess I should say, for your actual sales of the records. Okay, so there's the publishing quarterly, and then annually it's for your sales. And it's like, man, you're only getting paid 6 times a year. Independently, I use TuneCore. I also recommend CD Baby very highly, and there's a good chance I'm going to be bringing some music over there because I freaking love what those guys are doing. But they pay me weekly, man. They pay me weekly, and I'll never forget, even Derek Sivers, the one who founded CD Baby, he said, I want artists to get paid every week. And I love that. And he really set this standard because we should be getting paid every week. When you go to your job, you get paid every week and you get a direct deposit, And so all that to say is, I said to the guy in the band, I said, yeah, man, if I was to sign the label, I would only do it just if I wanted to play the radio game, if I wanted to play on radio. But I always come back to, I said to him, well, I don't need radio anymore because I'm freaking crushing it on Facebook ads. And I didn't get into it. I was just about to head on stage. Or I can't remember if I had played already or not. But I didn't want to get into a long discussion. But I was killing it. I'm killing it with Facebook ads, and it's just selling, 40 plus CDs a day or more, depending on how much I want to spend and market, not including Spotify streams, not include digital downloads and all that stuff. I'm just talking direct Facebook ads, and it's like I'm in control, and I can market to all those same fans that radio would technically do. And yes, if you have a global radio hit, could that technically be more impactful? Yes, but what if you don't deliver another hit? Or what if the program director leaves and all of a sudden, you don't have anyone doing favors for you? I've seen it, man. Literally what happened to me is for 10 to 12 singles in a row over a span of 6-7 years, these stations, some of these big stations, played every single one of my songs. Right when I went independent, they ostracized me and just said, just stopped playing me. And it's an absolute joke, and it's really, really sad, actually. And it's some of these stations say they're all for music and stuff like that, but they're not. They're owned by corporations, Christian stations, rock and roll stations, hip hop stations, a lot of these stuff, pop stations, doesn't matter. There's always someone at the top. There's very few that are actually independent run. The ones that can, the real big ones. And I don't want to get on a rant about that because, I still believe artists can have a great success depending on what your deal is with the label. Because if you do a licensing deal and you let the labels sell your music for a period of time, which is fair, okay, let them recoup their money, but then you get your babies back. There should never be any of this 10, 25 lifetime deal where they own the masters forever. That's your legacy, man. That's your future. That's your inheritance to pass down to your kids. You know what I'm saying? And so, I thank God I had a good lawyer who, taught me or got me my licensing deal. So the label gave me my records back originally. That was part of the contract. And so, that leads me to this. And that I was on tour and, again, talking to all these artists and just sharing, hey, this is how I'm making my money from my music. And I got all these income streams set up, okay, from SoundCloud to TuneCore to YouTube to, Sound Exchange. Just got it registered and all the publishing and just got all these things, working it with syncs and just all these different income streams so that I could survive and continue to make music and not go drive for Uber or not go back to a restaurant job, or my IT job was what it was, because when I first started, anytime off tour, I had to go back to work. But until my music was really working for me, I couldn't do that. But, if you never own your music and you never monetize it right, you're not going to have that freedom. Even getting your instrumentals already. And I don't have time to get into it all today, but if you want to get in TV and film and stuff like that, or when you're a producer, make sure they bounce all your instrumentals for you, because you are going to need those. Okay? And that is why, honestly, I created this course called How I Make Over $4,000 a Month Selling Music Online. Now, I've updated this course many times, but I created it on the road. And I'll put a link to the course in the show notes. You can get it off my website, smartmusicbusiness.com, and check it a look. There's just even a video on there where it just talks about it. It's not this get-rich-quick course, but it's just talking about what it takes to make that just online and how to set it all up so that when you're promoting, you have the best chance of success. But yes, does it take work? It's not get rich quick, but you've got to put it in. And I'm going to be renaming it because it's a lot higher than that now. But when I created it, that's what I was making like on autopilot. But I hadn't gotten all my records back yet at that time. But now I've got all my records back now finally. So thank you God for that. Yeah, check that out if you want to learn how to monetize and just get all your income streams set up. Set up your career like a business so that you can focus on the art. And honestly, I totally suggest that you do not quit your job until your art is really got a good foundation and making you some good income, whether that's just online or whether that is a mix of touring, so that you're not stressed out, so that you can still have that creative juices flowing, so that you can go to your mindless job that makes as much money as possible to funnel that into your career and start building that foundation and your catalog up of great, amazing music that continues to sell. And the best investment you can make is first in yourself by getting knowledge, listening to this podcast, reading books, getting courses, and then investing in the songs and then marketing them. So there's my little ranty rant. Again, click the link below to check out that course. That'll help you out. Don't forget to subscribe to this and leave me a review. Share it if it's been helpful. I freaking love you guys. I want to see you win. Again, I'm pretty passionate about this one because this is kind of like why I started doing this, because it ticks me off about artists getting ripped off from labels, you know. And it's just like they just don't know, and they think there's only one way to do this, but there's not. It's a different game now than it was many years ago. A completely different game with social media and marketing. Like, oh my gosh, the playing fields are totally level except for radio. But again, even sometimes if you hire the right independent, or if you get such a smash, undeniable freaking hit, then you can still get in. But again, you know, you got to prove yourself, and I'm not going to get into the whole radio thing, but it can be done as an independent artist, so don't think it can't, because I've done it, and I know other artists who have done it. I'll share on another episode where actually an independent artist song blew up so huge, and maybe I'll see if I can get them interviewed on here, but it blew up so huge all over Canada, actually. And then the labels approached them and said, you know, we want to sign you and stuff like that. And then they forced all the radio stations to say, hey, you better stop playing their song unless they sign with one of the big fours or something like that. So they forced this amazing independent artist into signing a deal. And pretty much, I don't know the full story, but I know the career didn't work out after that. So yeah, crazy stuff, man, crazy stuff. Anyways, be inspired. Love you guys. Keep creating, keep marketing. We'll talk soon. Peace. So if you're a struggling artist and you're just trying to figure out this music industry, you want to go full-time with your music, you want to get noticed on social media, or learn how to launch an album, an EP, or just get your music more marketed out there, I want to encourage you to check out my coaching program called Fanbase University. Every single month, I jump on the phone 2 times with my students and I coach them and I teach them how to market their music, how to get noticed, how to handle booking agents, record labels, and just get their music out there. Also, you get access to exclusive training, you get interviews with music industry professionals. If you want to find out more and not do this on your own, not struggle, because I've wasted thousands of dollars on my career, and now I want to coach other artists. Check out my program, fanbaseuniversity.com, or click the link below to find out more info.